Hello and welcome to the Kilowatt Half Hour, a podcast about the world of EVs brought to you by the team at Electrifying.com.
Well, it is great to be back and with you once again. On the show this week, we're talking spreadsheets, press conferences and fuel prices. And I promise it's going to be far more interesting than it sounds. We've also had a really full post bag. And I'm joined today by Mr. Barnard, who is back, and Vicky. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
You've been busy with spreadsheets, Tom.
Oh God, yeah. Well, I wouldn't say I love a spreadsheet, but they are quite useful things. And I've got myself a car, which involved a lot of spreadsheets. But then I've been trying to find energy tariffs again, and that's it's making my head hurt.
Yeah,
I don't envy you that one.
He loves a spreadsheet. Really, he does. He really does. I think we're also going to talk a lot about the comments and questions that you've been sending in, because it's been great that you've been in touch so much. A reminder, you can email us podcast@electrifying.com or drop us a comment. We do read them all. We like and reply to as many as we can. We had a very full post bag. We're going to kick off with a lovely one from Andy Smith, 9913. Long live the inane banter. So shall we get on to some inane banter for this episode? So what have we been driving, looking at? Tom, I'm intrigued about the Barnard's bargain that you've got. Were spreadsheets involved in that one, yes?
Lots of spreadsheets. So my wife got a new job, so she needed a new car to finally replace the Leaf that we had for 10 years or something. So, of course, I went into my spreadsheets and I did an awful lot of research. And I wanted to lease because I knew that was the most sensible way of doing it and much cheaper than the other ways. And so went in, right, this is what I want first. And the first car we came up with was an Alpine A290, because an Alpine A290 was actually cheaper than a top spec Renault 5. And she wanted the top spec one because of heated seats.
I know. It's so annoying. Oh.
So it was cheaper to have the Alpine than it was to have that. So then I did a little bit of research because I was ready to press the button on the Alpine. And you have to have it serviced at an Alpine dealer. You can't have it serviced at a Renault dealer. My nearest one is in Cambridge, which is probably an hour away. And you have to have it serviced every year. So I thought, well, a service is going to be at least 150 quid. And some of the rivals only needed servicing every 2 years. So it's 150 quid to go on the thing. Also, and this is something we'll talk about later, Alpine wasn't eligible for the intelligent tariffs, which I know are much cheaper. So I worked out that would be an extra 75 quid a year on the charging. And so the Alpine out the window.
Oh, heartbroken for it.
I know, but then of course, there was one.
Getting divorced over that decision, because that quite frankly would be a divorce issue for me if you were like banning the Alpine on financial reasons, Tom. For like,
well, it depends. You see, you just have to come up with a different alternative. So then, of course, I was looking like you do when you're wanting to buy a car or a house or anything. I was looking every minute of every day at the deals that were coming up, because occasionally there's a really good deal. So bang, into my inbox goes a smart #3 premium, top of the range one, pre-registered. And you could have one in orange, which was a bit of an attraction for me, that was actually going to be cheaper than the Alpine per month.
Wow.
So I'm like, this is brilliant. That's a really nicely equipped car. It's a car I enjoyed. I went on the original launch. So bang, went in, put all the finance documents in, and the guy's like, oh yeah, I'm out till after lunch. Anyway, he rings me up and says, oh, all that batch have gone. There's another batch coming in a month, but they're going to be 50 quid a month more. Is that all right? I'm like, no, it's not.
no.
And apparently there are some people in the leasing industry who do this as a kind of thing to reel you in, and then hope that once you filled in all the forms, you won't be bothered to do it again, and you'll just have it. So then my backup then was the run-out Cupra Borns. So Cupra Born V1, I know it's a car that Lisa, my missus, has enjoyed and likes. I had a couple of them as long-term cars, really like them too.
Yeah.
Right, it's cheap, it's a bargain. So go for that. And this is where, again, you have to do the spreadsheet thing, because what colour do you want? Well, there's some nice colours on Cupra Borns. Silver is the only free colour. And what you realise is that if you are buying a £1,000 paint option, when it's 3 years old, that has no value according to their spreadsheets, the leasing companies. So you have to pay for that £1,000 extra over those 3 years in its entirety. So to have a different colour Cupra Born was an extra 22 quid a month. That's like, I'll put up with silver. It's not my first choice, but for 22 quid a month, I will have silver. So ordered that. Guy came back and said, all the silver ones have gone. I'm sorry, do you want another one? I'm like,
Oh my Lord.
no. And I said, go and find me a silver one. So I went to another broker who said, I've got some silver ones. So I went back to the original broker, said, there are some silver ones, look on your system. He went, I've got you the last one. So it arrived yesterday, my silver Cupra Born, and we're very happy. And there's strange things with lease cars. It's like, I didn't think it'd have mats, carpet mats. It had the carpet mats. It's got a first aid kit. It's got a nice little welcome pack.
Carpet mats.
Well, you know, when you go and buy a new car and they say, oh, do you want to buy the mats? They're £100 extra. And you go, oh, you're right.
Yeah, but
Because it works out.
I would expect that. I mean, isn't that a bit like an iPhone not coming with a charger? You know, I don't know.
I don't
really
think it is. I
common.
think it's like an iPhone not coming with a case. I mean, I think that all those things, the mats, you when you buy a new car, you do not get carpet mats. So I was all prepared to go out and buy some, but no, they came with them. So I was really pleased. And a little charge cable and a bracelet because I'm in the Cupra tribe.
Oh, how nice, Tom. You're going to get a t-shirt with Tribe on it now that you can wear on podcasts in the future. Well, we'll be expecting updates on your real-world efficiency on that for the other spreadsheet that you're filling in. You are filling it in, aren't you? Which is our real-world efficiency, driver's efficiency. We've got a few coming up, so don't forget to send those in. Whilst we're on the subject of the Born, Nicola's been to look at the new Cupra Born, hasn't she? And we have a video of that on the channel, which looks at the updates that have come to that. So
that's a really nice video. And also there's a really good, I'd say, so, you know, just putting it out there, there's also a very good review of the car up on the website. So you could always go and check that out. Electrifying.com. Go on, you know you want to. There's loads of info, loads of pictures. It's interesting. It's good thing. I love the Cupra.
I think the pre-facelift Born's more fashionable, personally. I think
it's vintage, darling. Vintage.
In silver, right?
Yes, exactly.
Only in silver. I love that car. That's a good choice, but I'd have still wanted the Alpine styles. So anyway, Vicky, you've been driving a car. Go on and tell us what you've been driving.
Yes, I have been driving the new BMW iX3 Neue Klasse, which I think is probably the most exciting EV that we've seen for a number of years. I'm really, I'm very taken with it. I have actually spent quite a few days in it. I've done quite a lot of miles in it, and I really like it. I just think there are aspects of it that I think could be quite divisive. I'm sure not everybody's going to love the way it looks. I'm sure not everybody's going to love the new fancy steering wheel, which is a little bit blingy, but I do quite like it. And also Nick drove it. She likes it. And I was like,
love it. I love the steering
you love
wheel.
It.
Honestly, I was like, why would anyone not want this steering wheel? It's just so nice.
I think it's just a bit unusual, isn't it? And some of the buttons on the steering wheel I find aren't in a terribly ergonomic position, but I do really like the look of it. And it didn't take long, and I felt it doesn't feel unergonomic in terms of the shape of the wheel and stuff. I quite like it too. But you can get a completely normal BMW steering wheel if you wish. So it's one of those things. If you like it, have it. If you don't have to have it. So that's all good. More importantly, real world range. So I've been doing lots of different kinds of driving. I did big long journey last week, and I'm getting about 370-ish real world miles out of it on fairly steady motorway journeys, which is good. I think I'd hoped it would be a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm getting sort of 3.5-ish miles. But I'm not using efficiency mode. I'm just tootling around it, with the aircon on. I like a massage seat, so I'm not really making any huge efforts to really get the best efficiency. I'm just driving in a normal fashion in, the standard mode. So that's not bad. And I have to say, when you get that kind of real world range, it's funny how it's just, I suppose it is a bit of a game changer if you are a high mileage driver, because 370 miles without charging is a long time in the car. So you you don't even think about it. That's days and days of driving, basically, for my normal life. And it's pretty remarkable. I don't actually personally think I need a car with that kind of range. I find that if I have a car that can do 250 miles real world, that's about spot on for me. So interestingly, but I mean, I love the iX3 and I think it's going to sell so well. It's great value for money for what you're getting in many respects. You know, we're doing a twin test with the Q6, which will be out on the channel in the in coming weeks. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, let us know which one you think is going to win that test. So we'll see.
Oh, I wonder.
Anyway, I'm really impressed.
No spoilers that I know. I think the thing on the range for me is that it's difficult because when I drove it on the launch, which is just not the right time to be looking at range figures because it's been thrashed by other journalists, it's been driven short journeys, it's very difficult. We're going to get one in as a long-term test, and I really want to try and get 500 miles out of it, and that's going to be the mission for us with this car. I think I found it when I drove it a little disappointing, a little under what I was expecting. But again, twisty country roads, motorway driving, wasn't particularly in eco mode, was filming, doing lots of like back and forths as we do when we're filming. So really interested to spend longer in it. But I think even when you look at this real world of 370 on the motorway, and obviously you'll get more around town, this now means that all of these people who can't charge at home, you could rapid charge your car once every couple of weeks now and be running around on that kind of range.
Yeah,
so
depending on your lifestyle,
depending on your lifestyle. And I think what it means is we talk a lot about these big battery cars being great for people who do long journeys, but actually cars with this kind of real world range are a game changer if you can't charge at home, an absolute game changer. And really mean that the pain point has gone. As we will come on to costs, you've got to be factoring the costs that you'll get from charging more, but particularly if you could find a way of, charging somewhere overnight, on one of those lower cost chargers, it's a really interesting proposition, I think. I don't know, what are your thoughts on iX3, Tom?
Well, I think it's great. The one question I have, I don't know if you had a chance to ask them, Vicky, is about the waiting list, because a friend of mine, I recommended it to him, and he spoke to a BMW dealer and they said, you have to wait a year.
Hands up on this. Have you spoken to them about it, Vicky? Because
I have spoken to them. Okay. I did speak to them on the launch, and I got a very, very impressively vague answer saying, well, it will be very regional. They were surprised when I said we'd heard from people saying that they're having a year's wait. They were like, oh no, that can't possibly be right. But the spokesperson says this is entirely useless to most people, that it will be very regional. It will depend on demand. But I think it would be, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if you're looking at a minimum 6-month wait for a freshly spec'd iX3. I think that's what you're going to be looking at.
Yeah, I had a chat with a spokesperson yesterday at the conference that I went to, we'll be coming on to shortly, and was told a similar thing, but was told it's not a year, it's less than that. It's more in line with what Vicky said. However, they're also bringing in the entry level model will be coming in soon. So once that comes in, then supply will start to lift as well. So, and that will be coming in. I think it's sort of fairly imminently that one will arrive. So, and you know what? It's probably a car worth waiting for in our experiences of it.
Yeah, it is a fantastic car. I mean, all I'd say is if you are speccing one up, go for smaller wheels, because I'm a little bit surprised by how firm the ride feels on UK roads. Not in any way a deal breaker. I like it. Still lovely to drive, but you are, that ride is, it's quite BMW-esque, let's say.
It feels like a BMW. That's exactly what I would say. And I can't talk about how the GLC drives yet because that's still under embargo. But that's going to be the test that I cannot wait to do, is those two together.
Yeah.
And that Volvo.
And the Volvo EX60.
And the EX60, yeah.
Triple test of that, which we'll do. We're not driving the EX60 though until midway through the year. I think we're driving that in about May. But I think the GLC and the Volvo, once we can talk about that, that's going to be really interesting. And talking Mercedes, I went to see a van. Well, I don't know, you can't call it van life anymore, can you? Because van life has got very extra with the Mercedes VLE. I think I likened it. So you know how when you go on planes, we always would like to turn. When most of us we turn right and you get handed like you're drinking a plastic cup and you're fighting for elbow space, or you turn left and it's all champagne and reclining seats. Well, that's what the VLE is. It's definitely the first class experience. It's quite insane. And it's obviously really been built with that purpose of a very posh sort of, taxi vehicle. Obviously, airport runs, I don't know, carrying around gangs of very wealthy people in the back. I don't know, but it's, I mean, the seats, the comfort seats in the back are insane. You've got, you know, every kind of support everywhere, massaging everywhere, heating and cooling everything. You've got a massive screen that drops down with your own remote controls. The screen is huge. It's basically got, you know, think BMW i7, and you'll get the picture of what it's going to look like. Check out the video if you haven't. It was so extra. It's just, all I could think about was just how extra the whole thing was. But it's such a big step forward, I think, in technology from where they've been. You know, 800 volt architecture, 300 to 315 kilowatt fast charging. You can add about 200 miles in 15 minutes. You know, so again, just the ID Buzz, which I guess is the nearest competitor, you know, it can't compete on those kind of things. So it's so much faster on charging. You've got 6 or 7 or an 8 seat layout, stacks of range. You know, I think if Buzz is your sort of your posh family MPV, this is definitely the first class sort of celebrity experience.
Its rival's probably something like a BMW i7, isn't it? Where you're being, or a Mercedes EQS, where you're being chauffeured around. Because if you are being chauffeured around and you're very posh, then you probably have the choice of those two.
It is, and a lot of the people driving this will be being paid to be in that front seat, and they have a very, very nice place to be paid to be in, honestly. But it's the backseat passengers with their 31-inch screen that drops down and pillows and, you know, massaging everything that are ones that are going to really love that experience. But, you know, it's not going to be cheap, as you would expect. You know, 70,000. I'm kind of taking a stab in the dark at that. And they're doing... sorry, go on, Vic.
But think about that in terms of how much a limo costs. It's actually not that bad, is it? I mean, I know that you're probably not going to get the range you will out of the new EQS and this kind of thing and that sort of stuff. It's, it's impressive, but it's not that. I think weirdly, yes, it's very expensive, but it depends on how you look at it, isn't it? It's the same as the ID Buzz, which is kind of expensive unless you start comparing it to some kind of luxury SUV rivals, and then it sort of seems like good value. But anyway, I don't know about anybody else. I have never, ever been chauffeured to the airport or taxied to the airport in something that posh. It's nearly always a diesel Skoda Octavia is generally what it is.
No, I mean, the poshest I've had is some of the local taxi drivers around here use, there's one who's got a Model 3. That's the poshest I've ever got.
Yes, nice. Very nice.
Yeah, that's about it. But no, I completely agree. You know, all kinds of, you know, random things. But the screens, I mean, I'd love to know what everyone thinks about the screens. They're so divisive. Jay's YouTube, who is a regular to the podcast, just dropped a comment actually on the video and said, I'm not a screen fan, but I am shocked by how much I like the Mercedes hyperscreens. And they are going to be that, aren't they? I mean, it's a meter of screen there. They've basically replaced the dashboard with a screen. It's an option, you don't get but then if you don't get the full thing, you don't get that bit in front of the passenger as well, do you? Which is nice for the passenger to have. It's very big. It is a lot, but I suspect it will be divisive. But I think overall I liked it. A very incredibly tight turning circle as well.
It's got steering back wheels. Is that the...
Yeah, it's got it's got good steering, and Vicky, you'll be pleased to hear it has some clever self-parking tech, because I know how much you love that, because you struggle with parking.
I do not struggle with parking. Yes, I will not have this said publicly. Yes, I'm a very good parker. I will have you know. I'm excellent at parking. I was quite impressed at the iX3's parking system. It did genuinely surprise, because I hate them. I hate them all, and I hate the sensation of the car driving itself. Sitting in the driving seat and having the wheel spinning itself as the car goes into it. Honestly, it makes me shiver. I hate it. But I sort of had to restrain myself and let the car do its thing. And it was impressive. You know, the systems are good, but I still prefer to park myself. But I will give a nod to the systems and say they are quite impressive. But on that note, on the tech and the hyperscreens and this kind of thing, am I the only one that I don't get the passenger screen thing that seems to be in everything, like the CLA, not just Mercedes, but all cars? I don't understand why people want a screen for the passenger. Even as a passenger, I don't want a screen. I just find it such an odd thing. Yeah, I don't get the benefits.
When you've got a 16-year-old, then you'll understand.
That's what iPads are for, isn't it?
Yeah. Do they not just play with their phone? Is it not? Do they want to do the screen?
screen to play around with too. But you know, there's all this stuff now, isn't there? Though that you know you can listen to whatever you want. So you might be carrying passengers with this. So the passenger can put their headphones on and watch something whilst you're driving away, and then the people in the back can be watching something else. So I actually, you know, self-driving cars are not going to be for you, Vicky. One, if you don't like the steering wheel thing, doing it on its own. But also, I guess that when we get to this point where cars are doing more of the autonomy, then that will be what people will do. You know, you might be on a Zoom call. If you think about the usage for some of these really luxury high-end vehicles that have got this, you might be sitting in the front seat with your headphones on, doing a Zoom call and business call with work on your bit of the screen, and then the driver can still have whatever they need for their bit. That I think is where this is going and who it's aimed at.
Yeah, I don't know. The jury's out. I see what you mean.
Yeah, you're not.
I think the VLE. I can see the justification for it for the driver when they're on rest stops and stuff as much as anything else. But majority of cars, I just don't really. I just think people have laptops or iPads or phones that do the job just as well, and I don't particularly want that much screen, and I certainly wouldn't pay extra. But what I would say at the moment, they're generally quite expensive optional extras, and having that tech there if you want it, you know, fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, good. Should we move on to some news?
Yes.
Onto another spreadsheet. Talk to us about your next spreadsheet, Tom.
Well, of course, because I got a Cupra Born and because I knew that was going to be eligible for the intelligent tariffs, I went to change over to from my Octopus Go to Octopus Intelligent Go as soon as I plugged in the car. And I looked up the prices and thought, oh, hang on a minute. That's more expensive than I'm currently paying on my dumb tariff. So I had a look at my big long list of recommended tariffs, and it's chaos out there. So 2 suppliers have taken away their electric car tariffs completely. Octopus, which is the biggest, has put up its price by 1p per kilowatt hour, which doesn't sound like much, but that's a 14% increase. And its daytime rate has gone up as well for new customers, which means that if you're an average driver like me, you'll be paying £136 more per year. The other companies have got smaller increases, but there are still substantial increases, especially in the daytime rates for those. So it's not great news. What I have heard through the grapevine is that it's expected to settle down a bit at the beginning of April. There is a lower off-gem cap at the beginning of April anyway, but they hope that they'll be able to settle down and find some more long-term deals on fuel, and it will all get a bit better. So currently I'm still on my old tariff because it's cheaper, which seems crazy because it's dumb.
Yeah, still cheaper than petrol though.
Oh, a lot cheaper than petrol. Yeah. So I mean, petrol's gone up, but not by as much as you'd think. Actually, it's gone up by 6p a litre, which is in percentage terms not that much. I mean, it still hurts if you're having to fill up your tank, but it's not like a huge catastrophe.
Okay. And we've got we're going to get a lot more updated explainers about charging and tariffs in coming weeks over the website. That's your next job, isn't it, Tom, to convert your spreadsheet into
words.
Let's go on to something else geeky now. Conferences. So I went to a conference in Westminster yesterday, the Society for Motor Manufacturers and Traders. So this is the trade body that represents all the different car brands in the UK. And they were saying that they felt like the ZEV mandate, which if you don't know what the ZEV mandate is, the ZEV mandate is basically targets that have been put in place that car makers have to make around selling electric vehicles. So it basically is percentages of their overall sales, and it ramps up every year. So they were saying the ZEV mandate, they think, needs to be looked at, needs to be consulted on. Now, there is a consultation that the government's doing. They're going to announce findings on that apparently early 2027. But they were just saying that with everything that's happening in the world, with all the uncertainty and how things are not perhaps where we thought they'd be in terms of, you know, electricity pricing and the cost of batteries and just general chaos, that they felt that the targets were unfair. And I think it's quite easy to get the tiny little violins out and say, oh, well, you know, they always have a moan, don't they? But I don't know. I think for me, it is an interesting thing, isn't it? Should they be mandated? Should they be forced to sell electric vehicles? Discuss in the comments, I guess, is one for everybody out there. Or should we let the market decide? And is it actually those brands that are producing really good, great electric cars will sell them, and those others that don't, won't? And is there a better way to doing it rather than forcing set numbers? And I think one couple of interesting points was, well, the charging industry isn't fined if it doesn't meet its charging targets. So why is the car industry being fined? Because there are some hefty fines. It's £11,000 per car fine if you don't meet the targets that are in place. So it was an interesting one, because I think there's also this thing about electric cars have taken billions and billions and billions of pounds worth of investment. And not a lot of brands have been making money on electric cars. They have been pushing deals, but they're not making as much money as they would have made on petrol and diesel sales. And in fact, some brands are only literally just starting to make money years and years after selling different models. So I think it's a really interesting approach. I mean, personally, do we want a stick for the car industry, or do we want more carrots for the car buyer? I think I'd like a few more carrots for the car buyer. I'd like to have seen the electric car grant extended to all the industry, so people have got choice. I'd like to see, as I rant a lot about, a bit more support for the used industry. I'd like to see more support for charging, chargers being fitted at home for those that are buying smaller, affordable cars. So I don't know. I just think it's it's very easy to go, oh, yeah, they're always moaning. It's the car industry, they make loads of money. But the reality is, this transition is costing billions and billions and billions. So I don't know. I thought it was an interesting one to discuss.
I suppose if you look at the stick situation, they're always asking for some sort of stability and some sort of foresight of what's coming, and they've had that. And if you start changing, does that mean that they can say, "Oh well, this is no longer"? Especially if you're one of those people who's invested billions, now you're changing it to benefit the people who didn't invest that money. And also, I'm a great believer in people will come to electric cars because they're just better than their petrol car they had before. But would they be better if there hadn't have been that investment and they hadn't have been forced into it? Or would the car makers just have dragged their feet a bit more and made their electric cars a bit worse? Would the BMW iX3 exist in its exceptional form if BMW hadn't thought, we're going to have to do this because of all these rules that are coming? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm in agreement, actually. I think, well, I'm going to slightly split the difference here, because I'm going to say that we need the stick and the carrot. I think you do need the ZEV mandate. And I think it was always going to be a tricky thing to get the actual parameters of that mandate right. And I think that may be open for discussion. I think I could understand why manufacturers are feeling a bit kind of put upon, I suppose, is a very mild way of putting it, because, as you say, I know the investment and the effort that's gone into this. But the problem is, it's very difficult for some of them to sell EVs, and some of them, I would say, because some are selling a good number of EVs.
Yeah.
Profit margins are small, but the problem is there isn't the carrot. Then, is there? They've got the really big stick, but they haven't incentivized them enough, and not consistently enough. I think consistency is really difficult. They've had grants at different times. They've had grants for charging that have gone. They've grants for cars. They've gone. Then they've added grants for that and grants, and it's very confusing, and it's not very confidence inspiring. And we're back to this thing where the government isn't consistent in its incentives for the car buyer. So I would say that we need the stick and the carrot, and that is where I fall on that argument.
I wonder if the fact that, we're quite unique in these very specific targets in the UK. And of course, as we talk about a lot, the car industry is a global business. So you've got different targets in different countries. And Europe's doing one thing and the UK is doing another. So I think it makes it very hard for these global brands, I think. And as we've seen recently, is this right that we've just seen, I'm not across this story of it, but I think it was either you or Tom that mentioned that today, as we're recording this, Honda now is stopping some EV sales. Is that right?
Yeah, well, so it doesn't sell the eNY1 anymore, does it? And it's just announced that I think it's going to stop. It's the new range of EVs that it was coming out with, I don't think is coming to the UK. So I think basically at the moment Honda is yes, there doesn't seem to be any particular desire from Honda to actually offer an electric car, and you have to wonder whether. And I say this, it's very sad, because I love Honda as a brand. I think it's an incredible brand, and I love a lot of their cars. And I think the Honda E was probably very ahead of its time. But yeah, at the moment, Honda seems to be have decided that it's better just to not put the investment in. I think probably is where they're at. But we'll see. Maybe that will change, but that's where they're at right now.
Interesting. One for you to discuss in the comments, please. Let us know what your thoughts are on it. Carrots or sticks? Do we need both? Well, which one do we need? Barnard, just give us a bargain. Come on. What have you got for us?
Well, all these quotas and things do mean that there are some bargains out there. And one of them was actually the dealer who was doing Honda ENY1s for, I think it was 298 quid a month with 298 quid down. And I did think about it and thought, no, I've never driven it. Don't know. Don't like it. So didn't. But looking at Japanese and cars that do have grants, the Nissan Leaf is now on the leasing lists.
Yeah.
£333 a month with 8,000 miles over 4 years, which I thought was pretty good if you look at its competitors. So
Yeah,
it's a
that is
big
good.
battery.
I like the Leaf. I really like it. I think it's a decent car. It's good.
I do. I think decent is a really good word to describe it. It is so decent, Vic. It's just like perfect, because it's not kind of like wow in any way, right? But it's a really good, decent, solid car.
Yeah.
Whether you want it in turquoise, I think will be very much down to you.
I like the turquoise. I'm here for the turquoise. I like it.
I like it. I love it's teal, isn't it? It's not turquoise, it's teal.
Yeah.
I like it, but I think that's a good price on that one.
The thing is, where are they? And the Micra. I haven't seen one on the road. Have you?
They're coming soon. I think they are arriving very soon, I think.
There'll be time for a facelift by the time. I think this happened with the Harrier as well. It's just like, where is this car?
Yeah, well, I mean, on that note, has anybody spoken to Fiat about where the Grande Panda is? That's been how long has it taken them to get that here from Italy? Goodness me.
They got all tangled up in that curly charging.
You did, yeah.
I'm stuck in Italy. Right, let's move on to your comments and your questions. I'm going to just kick off with a quick shout out to DS Bloomer, who has sent us efficiency on the Leap C10. Kenneth Paul, Renault Megane E-Tech efficiency. We've got loads of great facts and figures for our owner's efficiency spreadsheet that we're working on. Keep them coming. Tom loves doing that. He's ready for your spreadsheet. Also, if you can, we've got a survey running on electrifying.com, which is just trying to figure out what should be done to make public charging better in terms of signage and pricing. So pop over to electrifying.com, and if you haven't, fill that survey in for us. It should pop up the first when you visit the site. So should we do, Vicky, do we have an electric virgin of the week?
We do. We have, so welcome to our electric virgin of the week, who is at Scorpion X ROG, R-O-G. I'm not entirely sure, so you'll have to forgive me if I've got that wrong. But so we got a message from them saying, hello, I also took the jump and joined the gang with the stunning Polestar 4. So I do hope that you are enjoying it, because it's a cool car. I'm quite a big fan of the Polestar 4. You see a lot around as well.
They've had some good deals on them, that's why, really good deals. But also, so Ben of our parish has bought one. 2 of my friends bought one, actually, on my recommendation. People that have them really, really like them. The 2 mates of mine that bought one, they love them. Ben, our money man, Ben who signs the checks and pays our wages, he really likes it, doesn't it? And he's very cautious with his money, Ben, because he's the keeper of the purse.
Exactly, and Nick's got one for a long termer, hasn't she? So there's that content up on the channel as well, so you can see how Nick's been getting on with her Polestar 4. And don't forget, she's obviously still in love with the BYD Seal, so it's got quite a hard job to persuade her how good it is. But yeah, have to check that out, because it's just an interesting car, isn't it? I think it feels like a lot of car for the money, the Polestar 4. So very nice. I hope you get on well with it. Tom, what's up next? There's something else.
Mr. Claw UK was to talk about sliding bench seats, saying, question for the team: should every small car steal the sliding rear bench seat that the EV2 has? And I think the ICE T-Cross, Volkswagen T-Cross, let us all choose legroom versus boot space for different needs.
Yeah,
it's not a new idea, is it?
No, it's not. It's interesting because there were some quite supportive comments that I picked up on for that one, which was slightly bored, hopefully not slightly bored as our podcast, from our podcast, said, yes, answer from the crowd. Yes. Also, the load lit from the Renault 4. If we aren't allowed small estates anymore, at least let us have practicality back. And SWR12 on YouTube also said, the rear legroom actually stopped me getting a Renault 5. I may still get one, but it gave me that moment of pause, and I've just left it out of decision making for now. If you could move the rear seats without luggage to give more room, it would be my default. And I've got to say, as somebody who's been running that Renault 5 for almost a year now, it's not great in the back if you've got, I've got teenagers, I carry my son in the back. He's like 511 and his mates, and they were in there last weekend, and it's like heads to the seat, ceiling. It's not great, and it would give a bit more. Leg room's not great either. So I don't know. It's not a new idea though, is it, Tom?
No, well, like the original Twingo had a sliding rear seat. I don't know if it was first. The Yaris, I think, had it as well.
Yeah.
There are
Tom, I'm surprised
others.
at you that you don't know this off the top of your head immediately what the first car ever made with a sliding rear seat was. I'm disappointed.
I'm going to go for Twingo, but there's probably some strange car from the 1930s
I
that
will
had
chip
it or
in
something.
here. Yeah, almost certainly. I will chip in here because I have also had this thought that it seemed to be that there were years and years that went by when you could not get a sliding seat in any EV. And I've never been entirely able to get an answer as to whether that's to do with perhaps how the seats are mounted because of the battery under the floor, whether there was an issue with that being a difficulty. Things like when the Renault Scenic came out, which is, to use this, a very decent family EV. I like the Scenic, it's really good. But it always frustrated me that it felt like it didn't have the versatility. It should have had a sliding seat. It should have... Where is the modern Skoda Yeti of the world with the removable seats and the sliding, and that kind of compact but practical? Maybe the Renault 4's as close as you get? I don't know.
I've got you the answer for that. The Mercedes VLE, if you go for one of the versions without the squishy seats, you can take all the seats out and basically...
Ginny, that's an 80, 90 grand luxury car. That's not a modern Skoda Yeti.
I know, I was just chucking it in there. Anyway. But yeah, what? Go on. Sorry, Tom.
I suppose one of your favourites, Ginny, was sort of Yeti-ish, the Kia Soul.
Oh, I love it.
That was quite practical, wasn't it? I don't know if you could take the seats out, but it was certainly boxy and practical, wasn't it?
I love that car. I might have to buy one of those but I know what they're saying. It's the sliding bench seats. It's just a really handy idea.
It's the versatility, yeah.
Let us know in the comments below, what feature do you think every EV should have? We've got sliding bench seats. Come on, add some more for us. What do you reckon? And we'll read them out on next week's podcast. Now, we were talking last week about Citroën. We're talking about lots of things, but we're talking about how Renault has done that great job with its retro, its retro models, but bringing them back without it being a pastiche. And, it's just doing great stuff, isn't it? And I made the comment of, why doesn't Citroën lean into this a bit more? Why aren't more brands doing this? Because wouldn't we love to see an electric Citroën 2CV? And a lot of people agree. Les Halliwell said, please tell Citroën to go retro. There is a lot to go for. Brian Davies 6074 said, I'd love to see an EV 2CV too, though I feel something so slab-sided might be too challenging for any designer with a brief to produce a low CD factor. And I think, there is this thing, isn't it? Why do you think it's Renault that's mainly leaning into its history really well? Why do you think brands like Citroën aren't tapping into it?
I think it's all down to the boss, isn't it? So I think Renault, the boss came along who thought it was a good idea and saw it in the styling studio and thought, we'll go for that. And Citroën have always been, no, we're forward looking and we're not going to tap into our past in that sort of way. And has that done them harm? I don't know. I mean, the Volkswagen Beetle wasn't quite there, was it? I don't know. A lot of people loved it.
It didn't work. It just didn't work when it came. It was fine, but it wasn't, it didn't tap into it in the same way. And I think I think you could argue, did Mini do it? I think Mini did it, but do they do it now? Not with everything in the range. I don't think they do. So I think it's a very hard thing to get right, isn't it?
It is tricky. Can I just say, because as you were reading this out, it crossed my mind, what about calling it the 2C EV? I mean, isn't that kind of a... There you go.
The name, the 2C
EV. There you go, the 2C EV. And I think, if you want slab-sided but aerodynamic, they're out there. I mean, that VLE video that you did, yeah. So I think that could be done. I think Citroën should do it. And I will put this out there. I actually quite like the look of modern Citroëns. Maybe not so much the EC4, but I like the EC3. I like the EC5. I think they're doing quite good things with design. But I am absolutely on board with going more retro and doing something really cool like that. The LO concept that had some fantastic styling stuff. So hopefully we'll see more of that in production.
But what do you think it should be? What do you think it should be? Do you think it should be like the original 2CV was, very basic? So like the Ollie concept that you drove with this, or should it be like the Renault 4 is, which is the Renault 4 is just a bigger Renault 5. It's not actually anything like the original Renault 4 in its concept, is it? It's not basic.
I don't think the Renault 4 works for me quite as well as the Renault 5. And I think if they did do the 2CV, it should absolutely tap into the Ollie concept. Because I think the joy of that was it was so pared back. And I think it should be no screens and you plug your phone in. I think it should have some of those themes that we see in the AMI. So it's almost like, it's somewhere between an AMI and, one of their bigger cars. And I agree on Citroën design. I think their design team are doing some really interesting stuff, but I think they need a bit of freedom to be allowed to do a bit more.
The problem is we're never going to get a really basic 2CV, are we? Because they've already done it with the EC3. And they'd like on the shorter range one, cut the EC3 Urban. They're kind of in that segment already. They've already got a car that's at 18 grand and up, isn't it, for the smaller battery? But maybe in the future, maybe in the next, maybe that is something they could look at. I'd like to see the 2C EV in some way, but I do wonder if, I know what you mean about the Renault 4, Tom, but I think the modern buyer, I wonder if with that kind of heritage, I think maybe you want to lean into a slightly more upmarket, slightly more longer range, something above the EC3. I wonder. I think probably it would actually make more sense financially these days. Much as I would love to see a modern 2CV that was, really basic, really car for the people, but I'm not sure. I don't mean it should be really expensive, but I think it would have to be slightly more upmarket.
Anyway, and let us know what you would like to see coming back as an EV. I want an electric MX-5 so bad.
Yes,
so bad, and I want it to have pop-up headlights. Like I do, which I know is not allowed. It's not a thing anymore, is it? But that's what I want. Let us know in the comments below. What do you want to come back and why? Right. Yeah. What next?
This leans into the Citroën thing as well, and it's worth commenting too because I think this is an interesting question. Does anyone care about platform sharing? So we had a question in, so at OB Smith 1A, and they said, I don't think the majority of people notice that different brands are on the same platform. It's only car people who do. And I've had this discussion a number of times with lots of people, and I suspect that OB Smith is correct. They go on to say, I remember Lotus Esprit having Austin Allegro door handles, and they actually looked cool at the time. 80s Ferrari had Fiat stalks. Polestar 2 was very Volvo in places, but that doesn't bother me either. OB Smith goes on to say, I think the Stellantis EVs are quite appealing, but only make sense at the discounted prices. The E208 is still the nicest looking car. Like, you loved your E208, didn't you, Ginny? So
yeah, I did. I mean, I think this came off the back of Batch and I talking about the Stellantis, financial news last week, and then just also a general chat about, have they gone too far on? We all know that these big brands share switches and buttons, and do people really care, or is it an industry thing? And I think what was interesting was we had quite a few comments sort of agreeing. We had Alistair Hughes saying the similarity of design and features is very much a you issue. So as in journalists, which I kind of wondered if it was. Most people own a car for a number of years and therefore don't experience other cars with similar features, so they don't really care. But we actually had somebody who, Tom, I don't know if you want to take this one, Stevie Cad, who had a very different opinion.
Yeah, he says, very interesting what you say about Stellantis. My wife has a Mocha electric, which she's been driving for 4 years. It was our first electric car, no bother, but sometime she's ready for something more exciting. She's not really into cars, but just like something distinctive. So we went to look at an Alfa Romeo Junior. She jumped out in horror, identifying straight away the parts sharing and hard points on the platform. Hard points, there's a technical term. Even non-nerds notice these things. Stellantis need to take better care of their emotional brands. I think that's where it is, isn't it? It's those emotional brands we need to make it different. I mean, if you have a platform sharing where you've got all the major components that are different, it's very clever for them to be able to make a Citroën and an Alfa Romeo using those same bits and make them drive differently, which they do by changing the way the steering feels, the way the car rides. But occasionally you do get into a car, even as a layperson, and go, well, this is just the same as another distinctive car, or it isn't up to the quality that I would expect from a X brand. And where you get with, if you're looking at a leasing, as I have been doing, and there's a Citroën EC3 and a Vauxhall Frontera, and you can tell just by the pictures that they're very, very similar cars, unless there's a dealer down the road or whatever it is, you're just going to go on the cheaper one. And if you're going on price alone, and same with the Micra and the Renault 5, then that's a dangerous thing for car companies and their profit, because they just go for whichever one's cheaper.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Nick in particular, I mean, let's not get her started on the slap a Nissan badge on it rants from last season of the podcast, which was just how actually sort of lazy in a way, the fact that there's been badge sharing between Nissan with the Micra they've basically taken the Renault 5 sort of platform and engineering, but even the interior, even to the point that it's so much like a Renault. So I think they do have to be really careful. We had an interesting one in about this one as well, didn't we? Just saying that there are other groups that do this and actually do it really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think we had a comment as well, haven't we? So we've had Neil R. Williams has written in and said, perhaps you should compare Stellantis to the VW group in terms of platform and parts sharing. And I was thinking this myself because it's not exactly like Stellantis are the only ones who have a lot of brands using all of the same parts. VW group obviously has sort of become a bit of a poster child for how that can be done very successfully. But what is it that Volkswagen's done that others haven't? They've sort of, I mean, Cupra's a really good example to go back to your Born again. So Cupra, which essentially was, it was the hot badge for Seat. And now I think Cupra is far more desirable than Seat. And everybody's sort of forgotten that Seat does actually still exist. But Cupra was really well launched and has done a really good job of establishing a completely different brand identity. And the cars actually do feel different to the others. Which is a really difficult thing to do because it is still parts sharing in exactly the same way that Stellantis do it. Yeah, but and they have made it different.
And having seen, the VW group small cars, again, they're different. They are. They're going to feel and look different. So I just, I don't know why it's not as apparent with Stellantis, because it definitely isn't. They do feel more samey. Not in exterior design, of course. I don't think they're doing exterior design.
For what it's worth, I think Stellantis are aware of it, and I think you're starting to see how they are trying to differentiate more. If you look at things like the new EC5 has a completely different touchscreen system to the Jeep, to the Peugeot, to this kind of thing. So I think they are trying to introduce more differentiation, but obviously they've had a big change of boss. And I'd be the first, I think Stellantis is a bit muddled and a bit tricky, and but they do some good cars, and I think we might see them improve in terms of that kind of brand identity in the next few years. I hope so, because I think it is important, as we've discussed. So yeah, we'll see.
Good. Yeah. Well, let us know as always your thoughts. We're now at the podcast. We're coming up to the Kilowatt 45-minute mark. So should we end on some random thoughts that we've had in, just some random comments that caught our eyes?
Okay, so DF ID.7 Tourer. ID.7 Tourer. Oh,
has he been listening to Vicky? He's been listening to Vicky Barrett.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah. It's me. It's actually me under a different name.
That is Vicky's favourite car. Vicky's answer to everything. What shall I buy? ID.7 Tourer.
ID.7 Tourer. Yeah, it's big, it's comfy, it's eco. I love it.
We know, Vicky. We've been banging on about it for 2 years now.
So he said, he's put it nicely, but he is saying bugger me. Twice in a week, and the Mighty B as well, which is Batch, the only member of the team that hits the eco mode.
Which is not true.
You've never hit the eco mode in your life, Ginny. You don't even know it exists. Leadfoot Ginny.
I was about to say that you are a regular B mode user, the Mighty B Barnard as well. Yeah. I use it all the time. Yoda lives in eco mode and B mode. I swear. I love Yoda lives in that mode around town.
Last time your car was checked, it was a Renault 5 and it was doing about 1 mile per kilowatt hour.
It's not. That's unfair about Yoda. Yoda has lived in look, occasionally I might not, but most of the time I am down with the stalk to B mode, put her into eco. Don't look at me like that. Shall we move on?
Normally the heaters are smelting aluminium heat, and it's in sport mode. And...
Let's move on now. Let's move on to let's talk about Ohio.
Yeah.
So we had a comment. We had our electric virgin last week was one of our fabulous listeners from Ohio, Buckeye EV Charging, who had finally gone electric after watching lots of our videos and getting lots of advice. He'd said, but had gone for a car that we don't get in the UK, the Chevrolet Equinox EV. And I just thought maybe the Buckeye State, which is where Buckeye EV Charging comes from, was named after me. Maybe it's a Buckley connection. But Stuart J5520 said no. Ohio is known as the Buckeye State due to the Buckeye trees and their nuts being plentiful there. And then I Googled a Buckeye tree and they're beautiful. And I now want to go and live in Ohio because it looks really pretty.
That's okay. So more
nothing to do with EVs, but the Buckeye tree is a very, very pretty thing.
I'll just look it up now.
Beautiful. Right. We'll put a picture on the podcast. Hopefully there'll be a picture of a Buckeye tree for you. Honestly, you should see them in autumn. The colours of the leaves, beautiful. Right. Okay. Let's move on.
Right. We've got another comment at Stephen Wensley on the VW Spice cars. If the T-Cross is the fourth one, then surely the rumoured return of an MEB platform, the Audi A2, is fifth. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Yeah. But does that make it scary or ginger? Perhaps the latter, now that Skoda has taken its premium slot in the group. And so I don't know. Comments again. Let us know. What do you think the fourth and fifth Spice Girls will be called? What will they be? What will they be called? I'm not sure.
And let's end with a final comment on we were talking, if you missed this, about the beeps and bongs that tell you you're tired the minute you've pulled off your drive, and how we really don't like those, because we don't need reminding that we look tired on a Monday morning. Brian Davies 6074 said about dopey drowsiness monitors, they should be mandated to initiate with, "Hey, you don't look old enough to drive. Please verify your age." Which I'm completely down with that. It depresses me so much that the years have long since gone where I get S for ID when I buy alcohol in the supermarket. It's only when I go through the automatic ones where it beeps for everybody.
And they do it remotely. It's like, yeah.
I can spot the greys from here. She's definitely old enough.
I was going to say, Jenny, I don't know what you're talking about. You don't look a day over 18, obviously.
That's a pay increase across the team for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right, so we are. It's really nice to be back, isn't it? Really fun to be back. Well, I think we need to wrap this one up because we will be at the kilowatt hour soon.
Yeah, I was going to say we're nearly at the full kilowatt hour at this point. So yeah.
So let us know your comments, your thoughts, and your car buying questions. We'd love to help you out if you've got any dilemmas that you're trying to choose between this car and that car. We will be back next week. In the meantime, have fun and drop us a line, podcast at electrifying.com, or leave your comments in the comments below. But for now, from us. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.